right, hello everyone. Welcome to this special International Women's Day 2025. It's especially special for me because it's also my birthday. So it's a pleasure to be anchoring this special one on International Women's Day. I am Ngozi Alebu. Well, I'm being joined by Oluwatoyosi Giwa. She's the project manager, access to justice, rule of law, and anti-corruption ROLAC. Well, Niri Goit, Action Aid, Nigeria's women's rights specialist. She's also joining us. And Mary Koku is gender equality advocate. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me on this beautiful special day set aside to not only celebrate women, I believe, but it's also to draw attention to the challenges of women all across the world. And since we are in Nigeria, we'll be beaming our searchlight or our focus more on the state or the plight of the Nigerian woman today in 2025. Let me start with you, Toyosi. You've been doing a lot of work. As a matter of fact, all three of you have been doing a lot of work when it comes to, gender issues and as it pertains to women. Now, let's talk about, I'd like all three of you to respond to this one in just 30 seconds if you can. From where you stand, what is the state of the Nigerian woman today?
Thank you very much, Ngozi. Firstly, to say happy birthday and happy International Women's Day.
Yes.
We have the data. Close to 90 million women are living, 90 million citizens of Nigeria are living in extreme poverty. And over 70% of that number is composed of Nigerian women. This statistic is scary because if you look at the percentage of women versus men in terms of population in Nigeria, 49% of our population is women. And if we have 90 million of the total population who are living in extreme poverty, and then 70% of that number is women, it's a picture of the state of the Nigerian women today. In the report that was presented earlier, the statistics don't lie.
They don't.
Women only hold 3.6% of the Senate seats, 4.7% of seats within the House of Representatives.
Mary, your thoughts on the state or the plight of the Nigerian woman today?
Watching that report, it just reinforces the current situation of the Nigerian women, regardless of all the work and all the progress that have been made, And if you look at the issue of, just adding to what she has said, when it comes to the issue of, let's even look at the out-of-school children. How many million? 13.2 million.
Depends on which figure you're looking
girls.
at too. Yeah.
I'm talking about girls.
Out of the 15 or so million that we're told. Yeah.
Girls alone, 15 million, 13.2 million. And that is a huge number. And that tells you that whether the woman is old, whether it's young, whether it's middle age, the problem is on all sides. And today, being the International Women's Day, it calls for action on all the arrays of issues that women are dealing with.
Niri Goit, Action Aid, Nigeria's women's rights specialist. Niri, I'd like to get your thoughts on the state of the Nigerian woman, and as in the same breath, let's even start, the conversation around accelerating action, which is the theme for this year. Accelerating action on the gender pay gap and female political participation. Every time we talk about women, we always talk about this, but then again, does it go beyond talk? When does the action begin? Niri?
Yeah. So looking at the state of the Nigerian woman, women are disempowered on all fronts. When you look at economically, considering the state of the nation, our current position, where there is high level of inflation, even the women that have been empowered on some little projects in the past are being disempowered at the moment because prices of food are very high. Women cannot afford 3 square meals. How many of them are in formal jobs? A lot of them are in informal jobs, and even those that are in the formal jobs, what positions do they occupy? How many of those jobs have security? How many of those jobs, you have, issues of women not having job security, and some of these jobs don't even allow things like maternity leave. They don't have health insurance. They don't have child benefit. So, and they have to juggle this with unpaid care work.
Look, we can't have this conversation without, bearing in mind what is going on now, especially in our politics, in the political space, where a woman who's educated, she's gone through the grind, she's found herself in a place of authority or influence, if you like. But in spite of all of that, there's this messaging that it doesn't matter how much you've achieved as a woman, you can still be victimized, in quote, if I could put it that way. How much progress have we made in terms of political participation and this gender pay gap that we continue to hear about now?
Well, to be fair, I think that there is progress, but it is very slow.
On the political front or on
all fronts? There is
Okay.
progress. We're not where we were 10 years ago, but there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. We need to be seeing much more commitment on the part of government to elevate women and foster mechanisms and situations that will elevate women to positions of authority, positions of decision making, and positions of policy making. And we need to be seeing government demonstrate that when women do enter these spaces, that their voices are not silent. I would say that I'm personally disappointed with some of what has unfolded in the past couple of days and weeks.
Yes.
And I had hoped that the Senate or the National Assembly would have treated this matter differently, especially because there was an allegation of sexual harassment. It is not enough to look at it from the point of view of ethics and conduct as a senator. It is very important to look at it from the point of view of an allegation that has been made, because there are many women, millions of Nigerian women, who are going through similar circumstances.
Let me bring in Niri. Your take on accelerating action. It does give a sense of urgency to the state of the Nigerian woman, not just the Nigerian woman, but women everywhere.
For us to accelerate action in terms of, these issues, advancing gender equality, we have to look at the systemic issues. Do we have the institutional frameworks in place? Do we have those legal policies, laws and policies? And, a lot of times, even when those policies exist, are we implementing them? Do we just pass those policies to tick the box? Watching the event in the past few weeks, honestly, it has been disheartening, because if the highest lawmaking authority in the country, is handling issues of sexual harassment like this, we wonder what can happen in other institutions. What will a university young girl being harassed by a lecturer do? How will she handle that if a whole female senator can go through, that level of, what she went through in the house, having alleged that she was sexually harassed.
There's so many things we can actually talk about, but let's see if we can make sense, just itemize them one by one. The issue of gender pay gap. I mean, she talked about patriarchy, and it seems to express itself in different ways. If we look at gender pay, how the male folk are paid differently from the women folk, even if the female is more qualified and what have you, in spite of that, what do you think is even giving rise to this, and how can we begin to check this?
We need to be looking at the data, and unfortunately we struggle very much with collecting and maintaining data in Nigeria. we need to know exactly in which spaces and in which spheres. Are we talking about public sector or private sector or informal sector? We need to be clear.
All sectors.
We need to be clear before we can begin to address the problem. What strata or categories of women go through this the most? What is the age distribution of or disaggregation of that problem? In what way are women with disabilities, for instance, also affected? So I think until we have data, and that data is comprehensive and speaks to all of the strata and all of the sectors and spaces, it will be difficult to answer that problem.
From your work and what you've done so far, I mean, what have you been able to discover as far as that's concerned?
Well, for the Rule of Law and Anti-Corruption Program, much of the work that we do is supporting government to look at policies and actions that they can take to enhance rights, protection, and justice for women, for children, and persons with disabilities, especially justice service providers.
Okay, Mary, I'm still staying on this issue of gender pay gap, because it looks like it's a very, very important issue, because when you hear that women still earn 40% less than men.
It's interesting because if you see the World Bank reports, it actually puts it at 59%.
Wow.
On the average in Nigeria, that women earn 59% of what men earn. But globally, we earn on the average 23% less than men. So Nigeria is a crying shame from this report. So what that tells you is that we have to really make an intentional effort to close this gap.
How do we do that?
Occupational segregation need to end, because you have this situation where women in Nigeria are more concentrated in less paying informal sector. And there are certain traditional attitudes that have permeated that. There's also like 70% of the women population of the informal sector are women. 70%. We make up 70% of that sector, women of Nigeria, according to MBS.
Yes.
So what that tells you is that we need to begin to look at the culture, our way of life, our systemic barriers that have kept the woman at disadvantage. And these issues are, some are quite historical.
Niri, we're not forgetting you. Let me see what else that we can talk about as far as the plight of women is concerned. But we just don't want to focus on her plight. We already know what the plight of the Nigerian woman is. How do we begin to correct this, socio-cultural norms on the, front of making laws? We do recall not too long ago where the, gender laws were thrown, over the, thrown through the window, and it makes you wonder what, if there's any political will to really improve the lot of the Nigerian woman. What do we need to begin to do to begin to change her state or status?
Okay, I think that one fundamental thing that needs to change starts from the change in mindset, that mental shift. I don't know what else can achieve that mental shift, because we in the civil society space, we've done lots of advocacies for years, decades of campaigns, trainings, capacity building. Sometimes you think you are making progress. Other times you see like you are taking one step forward, 10 steps backwards. Because, our mindset has to change on the need for women's participation. It is not just a gender thing, it's a human right thing. I mean, these decisions, this government is being run for both men and women. We are Nigerians, first of all, before being a woman. So there needs to be that mental shift that women's rights are human rights. My right to make laws and decisions and policies that pertain my life. Men cannot make laws regarding, maternal health. They cannot make laws that concern women in all aspects of life without women's voices on the table.
Okay, thank you very much, Niri. Oluwatoyosi, let me come back to you very quickly, because we'll soon be wrapping this up. Earlier in your submission, you did talk about the plight of the persons living with disabilities. I'd like you to expatiate on that and the work you're doing to improve their lot, whether by legal means or, you know, redesigning, you know, sociocultural attitudes towards them?
Firstly, I'd like to say that if you look at or analyze the percentage of public spending that is going to initiatives or interventions or going towards implementation of policy that is supposed to protect the rights and enhance access to justice for women, children, and persons with disabilities. In many states, that percentage is less than 7% of capital expenditure. And the reason this statistic is important is because if government is building roads, they should at the same time be building hospitals that are accessible to persons with disabilities. If they are building courts or they are establishing police stations, all of those channels need to be accessible to persons with disabilities.
Mary, earlier we just quickly touched on the issue of aging, you know, with women. Yeah. And there's also the very, very important issue of financial independence. I'd like you to talk about that as we round up. How do we begin to protect women as they age, especially maybe single women, you know, unmarried, you know, widows and what have you? What needs to happen to make sure that they're not left out in the scheme of things?
Yeah, I'm actually very happy that you brought this up because this is like an unspoken part of the life of a woman. Yeah. Nobody, like the older women before us, the ones before you, never really transmits their experience to the younger ones. Yes. And you keep living your life and all of a sudden it comes upon you. And then you're wondering what just happened. So I'm happy we are having this conversation, and I think it's one of the right steps. Discussing them, creating awareness. Awareness creation is one way to, you know, bring it to help me out here. So when
the physical changes, the mental changes, emotional
so it has, when you discuss them, whether they are menopausal women, whether it's a woman who is going through stage of it, when you engage and have this kind of conversation,
she knows what to expect.
She knows what to expect, because when you know this is going to happen, when it comes upon you, you're no longer running to see a doctor. You now know that it's a natural occurrence. It's something that happens to you at a certain stage of life.
Toyosi, helping the woman achieve financial independence, whether she's young, aging, or elderly, what needs to be done to begin to improve, you know, their lot on that front?
I think we need to start from our schools and start as early as possible. Financial literacy is important. It should be an important part of curricula at primary level, at secondary level, and even through university, so that people are already aware and used to the principles of financial management and are already preparing their minds as they get older to get into the workforce and to contribute to the economy. So I think it starts from education, it starts from capacity building.
Well, as Nigeria joins the rest of the world to observe International Women's Day, wife of Abia State Governor Priscilla Oti says her office is committed to ensuring that women and girls are empowered economically and educationally. Oti maintains that the day is a reminder to invest in women to accelerate progress. Nora Okafor reports.
International Women's Day is observed globally on March 8 to raise awareness on the importance of creating a society where women are given a safer space to thrive. In Abia, the wife of Abia State Governor says her office has invested in women through targeted interventions that uplift women across different sections and calls for more concerted efforts at empowering gender equality. At an event held at the International Conference Center in Umuahia, Mrs. Oti highlights her commitment to ensuring that every woman, especially vulnerable and women living with disabilities, are given priority of place in education and economic empowerment.
Here in Abia State, we are determined to turn challenges into opportunities. We are committed to ensuring that more women receive funding and training to scale their small businesses. We are also ensuring that every young girl has access to quality education and mentorship. Also, vulnerable women, particularly those with disabilities, would have the tools to thrive independently.
Commissioner for Women Affairs says The theme of the year resonates deeply with the current global imperative to expedite the journey towards an equitable society.
Every voice matters in our pursuit of equality. Together we stand stronger as we continue to strive for a world where every woman and girl can thrive. We can make choices and pursue our dreams free from fear and prejudice.
Some women speak on challenges as well as a call for equal participation of women in all spheres of life.
We have been talking about this empowerment before now, but this time around we want to quicken it. We want to quicken it to bring it to bear.
When you look at the society, what is going on in the society, the way women are being treated in offices and in many places. So this team just came at the right time for us to know our place.
There are so many injustices against women these days. Social injustice. Most women are not being empowered. They are not being protected in their places of work.
To accelerate action for gender equality, which is the theme for this year's celebration, calls for the amplification of women's voices, challenge barriers that stop women from adding their quota to the development of the society, empower women as well as engage men and boys. From Umuahia, the Abia State capital, Nora Okafor, Arise News.